very long time that we are doing a live video for, there we go, that's better lighting. I have to do my own lighting now, can you believe it? Luckily I have Ansa here to help me. So every once in a while we're gonna do we're gonna do a live video, and I just want to say, or I'm gonna do a live video. You guys are welcome to come up and ask some questions and interact a bit if you guys want to, and this is why we do it. I'm gonna do a normal message like always, but I'm gonna give you guys the opportunity to yeah, to ask some questions, say your say. And if you are new to our channel, welcome. It's good to see you guys. If you enjoy what we are doing in this message and you believe it can help you, it can help other people, please feel free to share the message with people you believe it's going to help. Feel free to like and to subscribe. Leave a comment. Leave us some comments on questions and stuff you have, maybe some things that you want us to speak about. And I just want to say this, I'm available for live sessions as well. So if you want to contact me, my email address is albert@thlt.co.za. If you want to know more. And we also have a website, www.mindprosperity.co.za, if you want to go check that out. So let's start. What is an unhealthy relationship? This is the message we're going to do today. And I think most of the people who are going to watch this will click on it because they believe I'm going to refer to romantic relationships, and yeah, that as well. I think in any this literally refers to any relationship. But I think if you are thinking about romantic relationships and if you're thinking about marriage and things like that, I think this is very important to consider as well. But I want to say, relationships like friendships can play a role, and I do believe this has to do with any relationship where you have control over a decision to make. Some relationships you don't have a decision. You cannot really decide who you work with or who you work for. I guess you can quit and go work somewhere else, but that's not always a good advice. You cannot always choose, people in your immediate environment, but how you handle that is very important. So we're going to speak a bit about attraction as well, and why do you get attracted to certain things. Say hi when you come up. Thank you. Yeah, say hi when you come up. And if you come up and this is not live anymore, write something in the comments. Okay, you're live. Huh? I just said reconnecting, so I got a bit afraid. So I want to start with this. Just because the relationship feels good doesn't mean it's healthy. Okay, so you can write that down. Because we're live, we're not going to have a lot of things that we're going to scroll on. But just because it feels good doesn't mean it's healthy. So we're going to speak a bit about a trauma bond. I don't know if you know what a trauma bond is. But a lot of times, especially if you grew up in a toxic environment around toxic people, maybe you grew up in a toxic family with toxic emotions, and I'm saying toxic a lot right now, I'll stop. But if you grow up in that environment, it can happen a lot of times that it starts to feel familiar. Toxic emotions, somebody treating you in a toxic way, somebody belittling you is toxic, and it feels so familiar. When you grow up, you believe that is who you are and that is who you're supposed to be, and that is good enough for you, and it feels familiar. So what happens is you get attracted to something toxic because there's something empty in you. Maybe there's something broken in you. Because of that, you get attracted to something that is not good for you, because that's either familiar or that is what you believe you deserve, and that's who you believe you are. So I'm going to give you some trauma bond characteristics. So a trauma bond is the result of growing up in a toxic environment, and it results in lack of self-love and insecurity. So when you have a trauma bond, you tend to be insecure, lack of self-love. And I'm going to give you some characteristics of a trauma bond, and these are some things to to consider and to be very careful for, and to say, listen, I need to go deal with this if this is part of my life. And if you are watching this, and I just want to say, and if you say, I can feel strongly these characteristics are upon me or are in me, what can I do? I would advise you to go for some counseling, to speak to somebody, You guys can speak to me. I'm available for sessions like that, but not just me. If there's somebody else close to you or a psychologist that you need to go speak to, it's never a bad thing if you see some of these characteristics in you, and especially if they feel very, very strong. So number one, you feel the constant need for saving or to save. You know, you can easily get close and you need somebody to come and save you. And so you have this constant need for saving or to save somebody else. That is codependency. You know, you get so attracted to somebody else that's broken. You get so attracted to somebody else that's toxic because you feel this constant need to save them. And it can be, again, that you grew up in a family where you always fought for the love and attention of the people around you, and now you're so used to fighting for the love and attention of others, and that's why you get drawn to it. You get attracted to it. But it's very toxic. The other thing I want to give you is enabling or empowering the person to stay in a toxic place. You know, and you get a lot of people like that. As long as you are toxic, as long as you're not in a good place, it's very comfortable for them to have you around. And sometimes you can feel like that as well. It's kind of like if somebody else is toxic, enabling is what we want to do, because as long as we can keep them in that place, or as long as they can keep us in that place, we feel comfortable. Now remember, your body loves habit. Your body doesn't love good habit, it doesn't love bad habit, it just loves habit. Doesn't always know what is good, doesn't always know what is bad. As long as it's familiar, your body will love it. And that's why it will use enabling or empowering of toxic feelings, toxic things. And I just want to say this: as soon as somebody comes into your life that is not toxic, that is not toxic, but will, you know, they will challenge you to deal with some toxic emotions. They will challenge you to deal with some things. Immediately something will rise up, you know, and that's just a sign that, you know, maybe there's something I have to deal with. I'm not speaking about somebody that's also toxic, that's offending you on purpose and trying to belittle you on purpose. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about if somebody healthy comes and they want to help you and they want to advise you and they want to see you grow, but you're kind of like just pushing them away because you want to stay in your toxic state. It's not a good thing. Another thing, and this is very important, because a lot of people do this: unhealthy sacrifice for the needs of others. Now, I believe if we're in a relationship with people, you know, whether it's friends, family, or a romantic relationship, sacrifice is important. It's important to sacrifice for other people. You sacrifice your time, you sacrifice your finances, but there's a healthy way and an unhealthy way to do it. Now, what is an unhealthy way? Unhealthy way is you don't volunteer to do it, you don't want to do it, you don't feel comfortable with doing it. It kind of hurts you when you're afraid this person is going to leave you, and this is why you keep on doing it. Okay, so it's an unhealthy self-sacrifice. It's kind of like to your own detriment, and it's hurting you. And you know, I think sacrifice, a lot of times when we sacrifice for other people, it should come out of a place of love. It should come out of a place of joy, and it should come out of a place of calling. You know, like, I really want to help this person. I feel like I have the means and the ability to help this person, and it's something that I really want to do, but it's not something that I kind of feel forced to do, or something that's hurting me. Okay, the other one I want to give you is an emotional addiction to the other person. So what is an emotional addiction? An emotional addiction is something that takes you high. Can you see my hand? High. I bet you guys know what high is. It takes you high, and then it drops you like very low, and it takes you high, and it drops you very low. That is when you get kind of like addicted to these emotions. It's kind of like, you know, when you eat food that are very unhealthy, you know, they pumped full of MSG, and they have a big effect on your neurotransmitters. It's kind of like you're eating this food and they're getting you on this high, and then it drops you, you know, and you kind of need to eat it again to get back on this high. You know, there are things that we can do, like things that we can drink that will, you know, it's almost like drinking a lot of alcohol. It makes you drunk, and then when you're sober, it's kind of like, it feels like you fell and you need to get back to that state again. Or when you when you use anything, when you use too much caffeine, it takes you on this high, and then it drops you again, and then you need it again, and it takes you on this high, and it drops you again. That is an addiction to unhealthy emotions. Like, so a person who's not at a good place emotionally, and you know, if it comes to romantic relationships, I will strongly advise you not to go in a romantic relationship when you're in this state. You have this desperate need for that highs and lows in emotions. And you know, a great characteristic of a person like this is as soon as the relationship is stable, as soon as the relationship is safe, as soon as the relationship is kind of predictable, this person gets bored very easily. You know, they want that addiction and rush. And that's why I said in the beginning, you know, not just because it feels good doesn't mean it's healthy, because a lot of things can feel good, although it comes from a very unhealthy place. And in relationships, it can be the same thing. And this comes to my final point that I want to share. If you have this constant fear that the person that you are with is going to abandon you, is going to leave you, you know, it's not healthy. And I cannot right now say from which side it comes. Maybe that person gives you a lot of reason to doubt them. Maybe you're insecure within you and you're just doubting. But we do know that thing is unhealthy, and that is not good. And healing needs to take place. Okay, so let's speak about a bit about romantic relationships. And when you're at a place where you decide to go into a romantic relationships, what are some things that you need to look out for? Meaning, look for these things. If you find them, it's a no-no. Okay, or they call it a red flag. What are some things that you have to look out for? You know, if you drive in the street and you see a sign that says look out for this, look out for this, look out for this, they say, like, there's something negative, don't drive into it, don't fall into it, don't fall off of it, look out for it. Okay, so it's kind of like a warning sign. I think that's like a cool way to say it. Some warning signs when you want to go into a relationship. Let's look. The first one, and these are things that I've dealt with already a bit, so it might look familiar in some of the previous things that I've said. So when it's too emotionally intense in the beginning, meaning there are too many highs and too many lows. Now, I'm not speaking about, you know, having attraction for one another. I'm not speaking about the release of neurotransmitters that's making you feel good or feeling in love or feeling excited. That's not what I'm talking about. That can be healthy, that can be very good, that can be very exciting. And if you are experiencing that in a new relationship now, I'm very glad and I'm very happy for you. But I'm speaking about this unhealthy state of highs and lows that's going to take you to this emotional addiction. I think, you know, that's too it's too intense for that time. And if it's too intense for that time, and normally there's something not healthy about it. And a lot of times it's in a person themselves, you know. And you know, you see people, they're in a relationship maybe for a few days and already they're like, I cannot live without this person. Yeah, I don't really know if that's if that's the healthiest way to be in. And it's all based on feeling. You know, you don't know the person's character yet. You don't know what's important. You haven't spoken about important things, and things like that. And it's kind of this attraction, and a lot of times physical attraction. And you know, we just want to get together and we just want to be together. And it's like, and I think a very important thing here as well is don't be physical too soon. Because if you experience that, one of the things that you want to do is you want to be physical. And I'm not just speaking about sex. I'm speaking about being physical in any area too quick. When you still have that emotional highs and lows. It's very important to manage that right. And I think that's the right word, because a person feels it, and it's okay to feel it, but it's important to manage it right. Okay. And a big one that I want to give you, one thing to watch out for: if only one person, or if none of the two people is working on themselves in the relationship, it's important that both of them work on themselves. But now you're saying, but Albert, what if they are both very healthy? What if they both at a good place? Do they still need to work on themselves? Yes, because we always have to grow. Person that comes to a place where they're like, I'm 100% okay, there's nothing in me that needs to grow, there's no way that I should better myself. I don't think that's a very healthy thing, and I think it's a thing that we should definitely also look out for. So it's good that both people are saying, listen, I want to grow in this. I want to better myself. I want to deal with me. And that doesn't mean that there has to be something wrong with you. You know, if we say stuff like these to people, they're immediately like, but you know, nothing is wrong with me. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with you. All I'm saying is we all have things that we have to deal with, and we all have to grow. And I think especially when you get into a new relationship, some things get exposed that you didn't know were there. Especially if you've been single for a very long time, you know, then some things will get exposed. And I think another thing, and it's not in my notes, but another thing that I want to add, because I said being single for a long time, and I think if you're in relationships all the time, you cannot be by yourself. You're out of the one and into the next one. I think it's a very important thing to go check that out. Why do I have this constant need for changing partners, even changing friends, even changing jobs? If you're at a place, whether it's a relationship or a friendship or a work or a job that you shouldn't be in, by all means change and get to a place where you should be. But if everything is changing all the time, maybe it's time to look within and say, okay, but why is this constantly happening in my life? Why am I never happy? Why am I never content? Okay, then the next one I want to give you is fantasy. I actually love fantasy movies. He said to me he likes real life movies, where it can actually happen. So he likes this old war movies that's based on a true story. I have to say I like it too. It's good. But for me, fantasy, things that cannot happen. And the reason I say I like it so much is because it takes me a bit away from the real world. It helps me not to think about the real world things for a while, because it's fantasy, and that's why I like fantasy. But if you think fantasy in relationships, you're getting yourself to a place where you have this unrealistic expectations. And if your unrealistic expectations aren't met, you want to bail out. So what happens is it's the unhealed inner child wants fantasy all the time. Now there's a difference between creativity and fantasy. I love creativity. There's a difference between imagination and fantasy. I teach on the importance of the imagination a lot. Fantasy is if you constantly want something that doesn't exist because you believe this fantasy is going to make you fulfilled, it's going to make you happy. So what happens is if you're in a relationship and this relationship doesn't fit your fantasy, you bail or you chase the person away because you want this fantasy all the time. And then another thing to look out for is people who call you names and react out of anger all the time. And you get people that are attracted to that because that's what they used to. They used to, people have called them names from childhood. People have called them names. People had outbursts of anger against them. They believe that's who they are, and that's familiar. So as soon as somebody else does it to them, there's kind of like an attraction. And until you heal that thing and say, listen, that's not who I am. I'm not going to allow people to speak to me like that. I'm going to put up that boundaries. Yeah, that's something you're going to be attracted to unless you watch out for it and unless you work on it. So those are some things that I wanted to give you that you need to check out for before you go into any relationship. Check that out. Okay, bad English, but good information. Okay, so when we see these signs, we shouldn't just say, what is wrong with that person that they are treating me like that and why are they like that? We also have to ask, why am I attracted to this? Because if you don't deal with that and if you don't heal that, you're always going to be attracted to that because anything healthy is going to seem very boring to you. Okay, very, very harsh statement for some people, but I think it's okay. Okay, so what to look for? So the first thing that I want to give you that you should look for in a relationship is emotional stability. Some ups and downs are okay. So when I say stability, I'm not saying there's never going to be ups and downs. I'm not saying you're always going to feel stable. I'm not saying there's never going to be fights and arguments. But what I am saying is mostly when you look at this thing, it's going to be stable with some ups and downs. It's not going to be this a roller coaster of emotions the whole time, but yeah, now and then there might be some stability. Some stability will be the core thing with some ups and downs because there will always be ups and downs. That's normal. Okay, there won't be constant fear of abandonment. I think it's good to say, listen, I don't want to lose this person in my life, so I'm going to do what I need to do not to lose this person. I'm going to treat this person well because I don't want to lose this person. That is healthy, but there won't be this constant thing of like I have to perform the whole time. I have to outperform myself, otherwise I'm going to lose this person. That's also not a healthy thing. So what you want in a relationship is you don't want this. What you want and what you don't want is this fear of abandonment. You want to feel secure in that area. Okay. So another thing you want to look at is growth needs to happen separate and together. So we need to grow separately. It's important for both parties, or maybe if you're a family, maybe if you're a group of friends, it's good for all the parties individually to grow. And if if you're in a family, if you're friends, if you're in a romantic relationship, it's important then to grow together, to have a common goal, to have a common vision, and to use your authenticity to make that common goal and that common vision happen. So people don't have to be the same. People don't have to think the same to get a common goal met. But it's important to grow together. So it's important to grow separately, and it's important to go together. So I'm going to bring the best of me. You're going to bring the best of you, and together we're going to grow. Okay, so it's actually better to be whole as a single person than to be half in a relationship where you literally had to say, listen, I had to lose half of who I am to be here, or I had to lose some of who I am to be here and to make this work. Because at the end of the day, from the outside it might look good, and you might even stay together forever, but it's toxic and not emotionally good. So growth needs to happen separate and together. That's the point I wanted to give you. The other one, honesty is more important than fantasy. Now, a lot of people that are, because this person doesn't like honesty, they like fantasy. As long as you woo them, and that's good, I think you should do that. As long as you surprise them, as long as you do great things for them, they are very happy. But as soon as there's honesty, it takes that fantasy idea away. And when the fantasy idea is taken away, that person starts to feel very uncomfortable, because it doesn't help that fantasy life anymore. So honesty rather than fantasy. And remember, when I say not fantasy, I'm not saying they shouldn't be romance, they shouldn't be exciting times, they shouldn't be these things. Speaking about romantic relationships now, and even with friendships, there should be these exciting times. But I think a lot of times also in friendships and in families, like romantic relationships aside now, we tend to always feel, we want to feel this high. When me and my friends, we have to go out and we have to do this together. It has to be this spectacular thing. And as soon as the spectacular is not there, then this friendship won't last. Okay, very, very important thing. Honesty rather than fantasy. And then the final thing I want to say to conclude this message, and they say what I'm about to say, they say this is the most important thing in any relationship. And you guessed it right, it's healthy communication. Now you get things like unhealthy communication, and I'm sure every single one of us has been part of some unhealthy conversations in our lives. But a healthy conversation is very, very important. And I think before you have a healthy conversation, you have to know who you are, you have to know what you want, and you have to know what you can give. If and I think specifically referring to romantic relationships now, if I don't know what I want, if I don't know where I'm going, if I don't know where I am, and if I don't know what I want in life, and what I'm expecting my partner to be for me, how am I going to make that thing work? So people get attracted, they get physical, and then they have a communication or conversations. And when you start with the physical and the rush of emotions, and you just give in to your attraction without managing it well, the conversations aren't healthy. Later, people like, we cannot even run into each other. We cannot. I don't even. I have to block you. I have to totally get you out of my life because you were emotionally so bad for me, because we never had healthy conversation. And I'm not saying the first few months of a relationship actually should be totally built on healthy communication, because that's just building a great foundation for everything. Well, hope this helped you, and thank you for watching. And if you haven't done so yet, remember to like, to subscribe, and to share this video. Then from Mind Prosperity, remember to check out our other videos, and we will see you soon. Goodbye.